Hang on, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Stephen, you're on. Enjoy the show. Enjoy, Tasha. We'll chat later. Bye.
This is High Performance Leadership. Coach on Fire, High Performance Leadership with Stephen Bryant. Welcoming you from Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada. This evening, it is a beautiful day outside. Hey, listen, this is how you can connect with me. You can connect with me on Facebook at Stephen Bryant. It is the guy with a Hawaiian shirt in front of a red T-bird. You can also contact me on LinkedIn as Stephen Bryant. I'm on Instagram at PastorMan007, on Twitter at Steve Bryant 007. And I would love to have you come on my Facebook page at High Performance Coaching with Stephen Bryant. That's my Facebook group page. Also, I'm a freelance photographer and Stephen Bryant Photography on Facebook. So there's a number of ways you can get a hold of me. Email address, stephenbryantphotography@gmail.com. And our tonight's guest, and we'll get to her in just a moment, and we'll give her the information to get a hold of her. Fabulous lady. I love her. Tasha Cole tonight. So had a great time. I just wanted to share this today because one of the great things that I have the privilege of doing is working with a phenomenal nonprofit organization. Is we call in the nonprofit world, we call it a social profit because there is profit in what we do. So I work with a social profit organization called Waypoints. Our main focus is domestic violence. We are building and almost completed a 45-bedroom shelter here in Fort McMurray for those people that are fleeing domestic violence. We also help with domestic violence outreach throughout the regional municipality with Buffalo. We also have an Opportunities for Change program that is a court-mandated program for those who are offenders, and also a sexual assault program. So wrapping all this together is helping those people, those families that are in crisis here in Fort McMurray. So one of the great things about working with this organization is its leadership. And we had lunch today, just a great day of talking about a lot of things that are happening within the organization, what's happening in the community. And it's great to be surrounded by people who are like-minded, people who have those same principles of leadership. And again, leadership has, as I was driving home today, leadership has different facets to it, but it all is about, it's not about, I'll put it this way, it's not about a position or title. Leadership is based on a lot of different values. And if you don't have people following you, you're not a leader. If you do not have a servant's heart, you're not a leader. If you do not have integrity, you're not a leader. So, you know, people can call themselves leader, but if you don't have people following you, no, I'm sorry, you're not a leader. One of the people that, again, with our guest, and I see a lot of potential in this young lady. And one of the things that I want to try to get out of this program is to have these people talk about what's close to their heart, because when we start talking about what's close to our heart, and with the people that I've interviewed, it touches people. Let's put it simply. It touches people. When people have a passion for something, they have a gift for something. I posted probably about a week ago on LinkedIn, our gift or our passion makes room for us. There is a place in this world, I firmly believe that if you have a passion, if you have a gift for helping people, if you want to help lead people, help them solve problems, follow them to help lead them to a better place, then you're a leader. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce tonight's guest, Tasha Cole. Tasha, welcome to Coach on Fire, High Performance Leadership with Stephen Bryant.
Yes, thank you so much, Stephen, for having me on. I'm excited because something good is going to definitely come out of this tonight's show.
Well, it is. I am excited. We've talked a number of times before, and I love your passion. I love the way that you're very positive about everything, and that to me speaks of somebody who is a leader. One of the things that I want to let people know to begin with is how to get in touch with you, Tasha. So you're on Facebook at TC Knows Brand, and you're also on Instagram at _TC Knows. And so one of the things that, as we were talking and as you were giving me some information about you, one of the things I always like to ask people first off, where are you from?
I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, born and raised. Absolutely. I'm a Charlotte.
All right.
Yes.
I've got a friend actually that lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, so that's fantastic. Tasha, what did you want to be when you were a child? Somebody asked me that a long time ago, and I said, you know something? When I was a kid, I was fascinated by jet aircraft, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And at that particular time, this is going to date me for those who know aircraft. I wanted to be an F-4 Phantom fighter pilot, and that never materialized. And definitely there were other things that I needed to do besides be a jet pilot. But what did you want to be when you were a child?
You know what, Stephen, that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you that mine did not materialize either. But when I was a child, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist.
Wow.
I can't even tell you why I wanted to be that. And I was like, anesthesiologist. And when I got a little older, I began to learn about what an anesthesiologist is and what they have to deal with while putting, people to sleep when they have surgery and the risk. And then when I got a little bit older, like in my late teens, early 20s, I realized that an anesthesiologist has to have really great insurance.
I can imagine.
Yes.
I can imagine. Well, I tell you, it's interesting because I had, when I was down in Florida, this was back in 2004, we had just got back from Disneyland, and the next day I had the kidney stones, and went in, and through that procedure I was put to sleep by an anesthesiologist. And so of course down in the States, here's the big difference too with Canada. I would have walked out of the hospital with no bill at all, and then I came home. Of course, we put it through our Blue Cross because that does cover, but the original bill for about what I thought was probably about 5 seconds of the anesthesiologist coming in and saying, here's the procedure, here's what we're going to do. And they had the bill itemized. It was $500. This was back in 2004, and I thought, whoa.
Wow. Yep.
Okay, I missed my calling. No, not really. But so that's interesting, because I think that's the first time I've heard anybody say that. That's something. So you said you were born and raised. You're still living in Charlotte, North Carolina. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like?
Another great question. My childhood was really, really challenging in a good way, because I am the youngest of 4 siblings. I am the youngest, and therefore I was always with my parents. I had to go to work with my mom sometimes because, I grew up, I was born in the late 70s, and I was basically a loner, and I didn't really realize that and acknowledge it until like recently, like the early part of this year. I was like, man, I practically grew up by myself without my siblings. So it was challenging, especially going to school, elementary school, middle school, high school. I didn't go to school with none of my siblings. So yes, it was challenging, but it was good. I learned a lot. By me having to be with my mom a lot and my dad a lot, I grew up in a mature way. You know, everybody that, you know, that I've met growing up thought I was older than my actual age. I always told the truth about my age, but when I would tell the truth about my age, people didn't believe me because of my conversation. And it still happens to me now. You know, I'm always around older people. I love being around older people. I love the wisdom. So as a child, you know, growing up, yeah, I got into some mischief too. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
I think that happens to every single person somewhere along the line.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely, it does. Yep. But I believe I was a good girl.
Yeah. Well, I was told by my mom used to brag about my brother and I and said, "Oh, my boys, they're always so good." And there were some things that it's interesting with me that the truth always seemed to come out, because I remember I remember getting the only speeding ticket I ever got. And this is when we play, you know, we have these team building, and it says, tell three things about you, and one of them is false, and or the other way around. So I tell the story about the only speeding ticket I ever got was in a '72 Ford Pinto. And if you know about Pintos, they weren't very fast.
No,
and in fact, when the police officer pulled me over, he said, I got you doing 75 in a 50-mile-per-hour zone. The first thing that comes out of my mouth is, this car doesn't even go that fast. The funny thing, he reduced the ticket, but and being kind of green, I didn't realize they could just pay the ticket and send it in. I was still in high school at the time. I had to leave high school, walk a mile down the road to the courthouse, appear before the judge, and listen to his words of wisdom for the day to me. And then he said, "You can go out through that door and pay the court clerk." And guess who's standing there right by the window where I paid? The clerk was the police officer who stopped me. And of course, adding insult to injury, he says, "Expensive ride home, wasn't it?"
Yeah.
Man alive, it's not bad enough that I had to pay a fine for speeding. But anyway, my brother was with me that night, and I swore him to secrecy. And a week later, my mom comes home, and one of her coworkers' son had got into, there was an Archway cookie truck parked on the side of the road. The guy was loading up, and had gone into the store with the merchandise. And the young boy went in and stole a box of cookies. Well, he got caught. And of course, mom's going on, but it's just, and my sons, they never do anything wrong, you know? Yeah. And it's just one of those things that, you know, the guilt of trying to hide this, to finally I said, "Mom, I got to tell you something." And then I told her. And of course, my dad was a driver ed teacher, and and he's got the same first name, because my full name is William Stephen Bryant, but his first name is William. So it appeared in the paper as William S. Bryant speeding, and what back at that time was like $20. And of course, that goes into the local paper, and everybody's starting to give him a hard time because they think it's him getting caught for speeding. It was just one of those things, but you know. Anyway, sorry I went down that rabbit trail, but anyway, you're listening to Coach on Fire, High Performance Leadership with Stephen Bryant, my special guest tonight, Tasha Cole. And Tasha, I'm going to talk a little bit about you. You're a pioneer in your family, and you host your very own podcast called Break the Cycle, which is coming out soon. I'm anxious to listen to that. So the podcast will be about helping, healing, and transforming lives that will guide individuals on how to break the cycle in their own lives. That sounds really interesting. You're experiencing breaking the cycle of poverty in your own life, and walking along this journey with your listeners. You are a licensed